Hello, welcome to the Purple Rock podcast. We are here talking about the Cook Islands finale. I'm your host, Matt. With me is Emma, Andy, and Mark. I don't have any witty things to say. Say hi to the people.
Hey,
Hey.
Matt, what the hell? I thought you and I were going to do this season together, and now you're just constantly having all these other people around? Like, I thought this was like a Blackjack and Hookers production.
Yeah, it turns out I don't actually like you. That's the secret.
Wow.
Yeah. See, what it is, and I think the ladies
That's
do
sexist.
this.
You heard it here first.
Yeah,
Like,
you're hearing it. That's it. That's exactly what it is.
First,
I
I
had
don't
it-
know. I feel like there's been enough data. At least now with this information that we can go back through the tweets. Probably not.
I was gonna say, not really much there.
Yeah. I think it's like one of those situations like women do this when they go on dates and they like have that emergency call. We got that emergency call with them pretty early.
I was gonna say I
what
jumped
Emma
on
doesn't-
to have
what
Andy
Emma-
not talk over you guys, and then he just talked over me.
Yeah, well, what Emma's not telling you is that emergency call that didn't come from me. That came from Emma. I was all ready to go. I was all ready to go, just the two of us, and Emma was like, "Andy, get in here. I can't just talk to Matt."
Real talk.
I need someone.
I got
who's
both of the
some-
messages at the same time.
Andy, I need someone who's secretly exactly like me.
Um,
But we're here. The finale has
That's right.
happened. We have finished another rewatch podcast.
yeah.
But at least now a new season is in the distance. Do we know when it will air? No. But do we know it'll exist? Yes.
I mean, we assume we're still crossing our fingers that everything goes
It's
well.
true. They are
All right.
filming it. I suppose we can't guarantee that they will finish filming it.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look,
But yeah,
me
for,
and your
for
spouse-
now, the
I mean, me and Andy
PRP4 are here to talk about the I24.
Right, because all I'm saying is, we can't guarantee a finish because me, Andy, and Emma are big sports fans, and we've seen a lot of sports stoppages, over the past year. That's all I'm saying. But we should actually talk about this season.
I don't know
and
what you're talking about. The Major League Baseball never had a season.
There is that. We should
No
actually
World
talk about this
Champions.
season where, we're down to the final five. It's the I-2-4 and one big giant douchebag.
The biggest
The biggest.
in both ways.
Yeah. Adam never had a shot here. That's pretty clear, right?
I mean, immunity would be his shot.
Right.
And-
But he was
Ozzy-
competing against Ozzy, so
No.
point
He didn't have a
stands there.
shot.
It's really cute when they try to make they try to be like, oh, and this person has a chance in the final five, and you're like, no, he doesn't.
Even at the tribal council, Jeff asked him, it's like, Adam, any shot? And he's like, no. And Ozzy goes, no, because I have this. It's pretty clear what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
he does try to cause some chaos on his way out. What do we think of Adam's decision to try to muck it up and put some votes on Yule and get the idol out?
I mean, I can appreciate being motivated by spite.
Yeah.
Is it earned spite? No. But that's okay. It happens.
If it was just spite, I think I would respect it more. And generally, I do respect, like, you're in the game, do something,
Right.
But it's the motivation doesn't really feel like, and this was true with, Vote Out Jonathan before us too. It's like, it doesn't seem to be, I'm trying to find a way to help myself in this game and, to continue my success, especially again, at the point that he's doing it, there's nothing more to try. Who knows, maybe he even does try, like, hey, you want to vote on somebody that's not me? I mean, if you try that, go ahead, but there's no real path to go to, especially because the targets that he chooses really aren't that palatable of choices between Sandra and Becky. But it's clear like that all of this was just spurred on from the fact that like the game had turned on him in such a way that his word no longer meant anything. For the longest time over in Raro, he just got to call the shots, not because he was some kind of mastermind, not that because he was leading. They hated leadership, just because it was a reflection of what I assumed to be his normal life, and that he gets his way because he's tall and good looking, and it's probably how it's been. I assume he's probably been good at sports for a lot of his life. And it's just he's accustomed to having his way. That's the way the game had gone. And now these people took it away from him. And it's just been a way of, I want to, have some level of influence. of this, just to say that I did. It will have no effect on me and my ability to succeed, but I'll get to feel good that I made these people do something that they didn't want to do. And maybe that in itself is its own value, but since I don't like the guy, I'm like, fuck you.
And on a rewatch too, like I feel like trying to flush the idol at any point is so commonplace now. It doesn't even register as like a decent move. Like these days, everybody does that all the time. So maybe it was more impactful back then. I don't remember.
Well, it's a tougher idol to
ago.
flush, especially at these numbers. So,
right, like he's really saying, like, you're voting me out anyway, but maybe you'll be able to get rid of Yule.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if he had an issue with Yule also, or if he like was trying to genuinely help somebody that whom he wanted to win, I could even respect it more. But no, all he's really wanting to do is be able to be like, I did that. That was me. Yeah. And that's honestly the biggest reason why they never should have done it is why make you feel good that you got to do this? We are in control of the game, not you.
Well, but let's ask the question then. Should they have done it? Should Sandra and Ozzy, because those are the two people he went to, should they have flushed the idol?
Well, I was gonna say one thing Adam maybe should have said in his pitch was to Ozzy is like, hey, I made this deal with Yule, so if he makes it to the end, I have to vote for him. And that might motivate Ozzy in a different way because we saw how he felt about that deal later, and we'll talk about that later. But that would have maybe been a little more effective than like, hey, foursome that overcame the odds and where there's a lot more writing on this, symbolically than just the game. Don't you want to hurt the guy who helped get you there for me? Adam?
Yeah. I mean, maybe in a cold, empty, strategic way, it would cause a level playing field. Although it should be noted that they all assume that will happen at 3.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Like, again, why give him his way? Nobody's going to give you credit for doing it. So there's not that. It would just be an opportunity would be created to get rid of Yule, possibly, right? But it's just like, if that's not your motivation and you're not particularly motivated to help this guy, and at that point, like 2 days left, it probably just feels good to complete what you had started, like Emma was saying.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say is, I think it could make sense for Sandra, except for, because here's the path to Sandra winning. She has to get to a final 2 with Becky. We all know that's like the only path she has. And they still think there's a final 2 at this point, though I do wonder if doubt starts to creep in when they realize that there's only time left for one more challenge. But anyway.
Also, the number of jurors. It would be an even
the number of jurors was a little odd too.
Mm-hmm. But since it is the first time ever, oh, sorry. I was just going to defend them.
Okay. But anyway, the only way she can win is a final 2 with Becky. Which means that, the worst case scenario for her is a final 4 where Ozzy has immunity, Yule has immunity, and one of she or Becky goes. So flushing the idol would be one way to prevent that. The problem is she needs 3 votes to do this. She would not get credit for the move. Adam would get credit for the move, or Ozzy would get credit for the move. Sandra would not.
Yeah. But I guess at that point, what she's counting on in your calculation is that they won't be around to receive the credit. They don't need the credit one way or the other. They're going to beat her or else, which then gets in, was it a good idea for Ozzy to do it? And I think actually just thinking about it, the answer is no.
Yeah.
What Ozzy is riding on is that he has run a pure game. He has done nothing underhanded to anybody who is still remaining in the game. Although he oddly chooses.
He hasn't played the game,
Yeah. And so nobody has any hurt feelings. All he did was win, and you can't resent him for that. You can only feel good about it for that. This would change that. This now he would be working with the other side. He would be turning on the person who sort of helped get him there. Again, Ozzy kind of helped himself get there. And so, maybe it's just like, I don't need that, dude. I'm going to be there. So I don't need to do any of these underhanded things. All that would do is potentially lose me votes in a final that I'm counting on taking at, like, pretty sure I'm going to take Yule out of the final 3 anyway. So,
So,
and then
no,
in terms of like how they don't know this, so that we're evaluating with the decision based on the information they have. It would not have mattered is the other thing. So say they do that and they cause all these hurt feelings, and you know the final 4 challenge plays out the same way. Ozzy wins it. Now it's it's a tie between Yule and Sundra.
Do you think there's any chance they get Becky to turn on Yule? Like, is that even a possibility?
No way.
Yeah, no.
And I feel pretty confident that Yule would beat Sundra in a fire-making challenge, just because it would be hard to do worse.
Yeah, I feel like he could start a fire in 2 hours. Now, I don't know if he's gonna crush it.
With
maybe there were some difficulties, but I can say with 100% certainty that Yule wins the fire making challenge against Sundra. So
yeah, maybe.
So then what happens is they go to a final 3, and all
fire.
that's happened is Adam gets to talk about how he made these people look stupid.
Yeah.
Which is what he tries to do anyway,
that.
right? Like he spends his time in that tribal council in the next one talking about how boring they are and how it all sucks, and they won't, mix it up because they're not like him. This would have just been firepower. So getting back to that, it's like, why do the thing that the asshole is trying to get you to do? It's hard. Like, even if it's somehow in your best interest, it's hard to like. Why would you believe it? Why would you believe anything Adam has to say? It's clear that like his motivations are not to help you. They're just to fuck around. And so it's like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah. So Adam goes home. We're left with the Aitu 4 as the final 4. They did it. They overcame the terrible Raros. They have vanquished the villains of the season.
It feels
beautiful. Amazing
great.
Underdog story.
Yep.
No, it's great. It's why we love this season.
You truly love to see it. Yeah.
Are they the greatest Final 4 of all time? I mean, it's a pretty loaded question. We just watched it, and honestly, I would think less of anybody who says no. But I know there'll be like Black Widows or whatever. But I mean, I guess on a case like a person by person basis, the top 3 in the Black Widows are more interesting than. But I feel like as a collective, the Aitu 4.
Yeah.
It's it's a full
thing.
group, and they never turned on each other in any way. So that's definitely
like Amanda was always like a reluctant member of that group,
right? And they did try to
vote her
Amanda out.
Yeah, just the view votes
fully
early.
Try to vote her out.
It's different if like 4 strong people get to the end through their own machinations, but this is like a collective family almost.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, Yule talks about a lot of tribal council, and it caused a lot of eye rolling. But there really was a decision at some point where they were just like, "Hey, we're in this together. We're sticking together. We are going to get to the end together." And it's like nice to actually see that happen every once in a while.
You know what? And screw you and your fucking eye rolling. Last episode.
What is Jenny so mad at?
I know.
Wait, why me?
It's not
true.
You.
We have evidence that it's true. Everybody's like, oh yeah, right. No, really. In fact, we spent the final day before this, somebody trying to break it up. A few times before that, somebody breaking up. And every time we were like, nah, we're good. It's us 4. And all you can really roll your eyes at it is that you weren't able to do it. Like last episode with Emily, I was like coming back to I guess I don't hate poverty or whatever after just being enraged 2 episodes ago. But then at Final Tribal Council again, just like their snotty little remarks and side whispering, everything about those 3 was just high school bullshit the whole time, which is why, getting back, it was great that they didn't take Adam's gambit. All he was just trying to do was like practical joke them. Anyway, sorry.
Also,
I'm skipping ahead, but
at least Adam, Candace, Parvati were like the adversaries of the Aitu 4, so it's like, oh, that success led to our failure. Like, I swear to God, if you look at the jury, even before final, like Jenny seems like so bitter, and it's like you weren't even with them. Like, you were never.
Like, 2 of them don't even know you.
Yeah.
The turning point of the season was Jenny going home instead of Penner at 10. right before the merge.
That's Penner's fault.
I agree. But all I'm saying is Jenny
is
is viewing everything after the merge from the viewpoint of I wouldn't have flipped. They would have won. Like all of these people's efforts would have been for nothing had they just kept me. You know,
She
it's
even
the
said
hero
that
of your
in
own
the
story.
reunion.
Yeah.
It's the hero of your own story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like,
obviously, like any reaction shot in that scenario could be to anything. Maybe she's rolling her eyes at something that Parvati or Adam said, right? But yeah, it's just, I think there's also just something about that environment. No matter what, because talk about a jury that really has no basis on feeling bitter about anything. There should be no bitter feelings whatsoever. In fact, if any would come from Penner. Penner, I suppose, has an argument, but everybody else is just like, you had 100 shots to beat these 4. They never lied to you about doing anything other than the remaining with these 4, and you were unable to do it. And the thing is, I think the environment of a jury just always just makes people feel like, we are the aggrieved, or at least we must perform as such.
Well, I mean, and even if you wanted them to turn on each other, then it's up to you to make the case why they should, and you failed to do that. You can't say like, well, they weren't motivated enough. It's like, no, you failed to make the right pitch to them. You failed to appeal to their interest to do so.
And I should say this wasn't a particularly bitter jury, but just anything of it, I don't get it.
So anyway, we get to the final 4. And we actually see Ozzy sweat for once in a challenge. Like Sandra gives him a run for his money in that stand on the very small platform in the water challenge.
Yeah, she does really well. I think it's pretty surprising. I will say, briefly in the final 5 challenge, that's also one where it looks like maybe Ozzy's doing bad, and then it's like, oh, he just did the hardest part first, and everyone else. Yeah, and then
And then he solved the puzzle really quick.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, oh, now we'll see if Ozzy can do a puzzle. And I'm like, he can do a puzzle.
Yeah, he can do a puzzle. He's actually
the whole
pretty
time
good
I
at
was
puzzles.
watching that challenge with my partner, I was like, the right strategy is to do the hardest stuff first. And she's like, no, you do the easy stuff first. And so I was glad to be proven right there.
Well, you've seen it before, so I don't know.
It's been a long time.
I pick what Ozzy's strategy is, and then I say that's the correct one. Now, to be fair, a lot of times the best strategy for Ozzy is to be Ozzy. That just kind of overcomes a lot of strategic things.
That is true.
All I remembered was that Ozzy won a bunch of challenges. I didn't know where exactly he won.
No, I know. I'm joking. But anyway, so Ozzy, of course, wins because that's all he does this season. He just wins. And then they know this is the final vote. Yul is safe. Ozzy's safe. The only question is, does Yul give Becky his idol? And he actually offers it to her, and she says no. What do we think of her choice here? And then we'll talk about his choice later.
I think it's similar to the idea of Ozzy and Sandra not trying to get rid of the idol, in that it's just as sort of silly as it seems, it's just like a bad luck, and their whole thing is being this foursome and this, strong alliance, and sort of the way Ozzy's pushing it, which makes sense, especially given that he's just not as tight with Sandra, is okay, this is the fair way. We're immune, it'll be a tie, you guys compete, and this, gives them more of a hierarchy, which they've been able to avoid this entire time. Also, I think, and I wonder if Becky even realizes, she doesn't have a great shot, of getting there. Thinking. So it's okay, the difference between 3rd and 4th.
Because at this point, they know it's a final 3. So if she takes out Yul, she's going up against Ozzy, and that's a guaranteed loss. So why not preserve your friendship?
There's no way that Becky can win. And I think she's smart enough to know it.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of why not guarantee yourself a place in the final 3? Take the idol vote out, Sandra.
I just don't think that's in her personality.
Yeah, I think it's also, it's like she says in Final Tribal that she knows people are going to talk about her riding Yul's coattails. So if she literally gets to the end with his idol, then there's no avoiding that. And then this way she can at least say hey, we did have conversations together and stuff, which they did. But yeah, I mean, as you know, Parvati will go on to say she was sitting between giants. What are you gonna do?
Which I
Yeah,
actually
no.
think is accurate, you know.
I think Parvati nailed it, and I've always thought so, and especially with this rewatch. It's like, yep, you
Yeah.
got it. It's
Like,
not that you're
yeah.
bad. It's just what can you do? The other two players on each side of you are superior.
And we did touch on this last week a bit, but yeah, people just really have this in their head that if you get 0 votes at the end, that you're a bad player. And that is just not always true, because sometimes you're just sitting next to better people, you know.
Right.
Like Spencer and Tasha played fine games in Cambodia. They weren't as good as Jeremy, and nobody felt like voting for second place.
Right.
Yeah. Which you should never do, by the way.
Right.
You should never feel that way. You get one vote. You're supposed to pick who you think is best.
Yes.
Mhm.
You don't get to rank choice. You don't get to decide, well, I also really think this person did really well. You get to write one name. And if you think one person's better, it really doesn't matter how well the other person played.
Though Andy brings up a good point. We should have ranked choice voting in Survivor.
I mean, they
And
don't
in
for
a
any
lot of
other element,
places.
so probably not. But yeah, I mean, if that's what you care about, right? If it's really super important, I suppose this is an element that creeps in once you get 3 people instead of 2. Although, you know.
Yeah, I think there is that, because like I think there's the sense of like, we all know Dawn played better than Sherry, you know, and she deserves to be treated as such. But I also understand. I do think, you know, yeah, you should vote. Like maybe if you're really motivated by spite of someone who wronged your brother, I understand throwing a second choice vote out there. But when it's not as personal, like yeah, vote for the winner. But at the same time, Dawn deserves better than Sherry.
She
and
deserves
that's
to
a
be
bummer.
treated better. The vote's
That's
really,
the
that's
big
not the
thing.
part. You know?
Yeah. Everything there, but we are not talking about that season. Because why
we
would
did
you
get a
want that?
little bit off topic there.
Yeah, to get to Becky's choice, I do think there is the point. I think her reasoning was incredibly solid. That it's hard to combat the perception that she already knows is out there. It's been said already. She's heard it also been reported to her from Yule, as we've discussed. That she's been taken there. You can't fight that at all the minute you let him to literally take you to the finals, right? You at that point you just conceded. But she might have gotten a vote if she had. Matt, you were kind of talking about this.
So I don't know if the vote would have gone to Becky, but I actually think it was, in hindsight, kind of a really bad choice of Yule to make the offer, because here's the thing. Yule wins by 1 vote. You'll get Sundra's vote. I think Sundra would have a much harder time voting for Yule if he gives the idol to Becky after basically promising that they wouldn't like turn on each other. This would be straight up all that. Like, that's the type of kind of like betrayal that he had avoided within his own group to that point. That's the type of thing that Sundra might be like, yeah, this is a tough vote. I was closer with Yule, but now I don't know. Like, he kind of stabbed me in the back there. I'll throw a vote to Ozzy.
Yeah, especially with 1 day to recover
exactly
from that betrayal.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
we were
that's
talking
a good
about
point.
Becky's choice, but I was just gonna say that Yule made it was a really bad move for him. Like I just think it reflected poorly on his like upstanding personality to that point.
Well,
At
I
that
think
point,
at the
his
same
first loyalty is to Becky, so that's why he's doing it. I think he even knows this is not a good thing for him. Clearly, it's not a good thing for him. It introduces risk. All that needs to now happen is to get out there that Yule is available to be voted for. That's why it would have to be a blindside to Sundra. It couldn't be like, I thought about it and I'm giving my idol to Becky, because then it'd be like, yoink, we're voting for Yule now. Now again, he wins the tiebreaker, but so yeah, it would have been a complete betrayal, and I do think that it could have cost him the game. And in fact, he's lucky enough that Sundra didn't process it in the moment. It's like, wait, you were gonna betray me, but Becky talked you out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, but here's the thing. I think from Becky's perspective, and I think this may have also played into her turn it down, is so Becky's obvious first choice of how the game would end is that she wins. Her second choice is that Yule wins. And I think Becky's smart enough to realize that him offering that probably impacts both of those choices, whereas turning down, and it doesn't. And so it's like, yeah, no, you really shouldn't do this. So.
And then it's also just we can talk about whether it's a smart move or not, but it's also reflective of the real thing that happened out there in Survivor. Yeah, it wasn't a good move for Yul to do that, but he felt like compelled to it because Becky was his partner. She had helped him throughout this. This is his opportunity. In fact, when he reveals to her fairly early on that he has the idol, he is with the intention that I believe was genuine, that this is something we will use. So now he doesn't need to use it. It's almost tied into that earlier offer, right? If you do, then you're entitled to this. You kept my secret. You worked with me, and it's this happens in Survivor. Colby doesn't take Keith to the end. That's right. As much as we can judge it, we will judge. It's part of being the viewer. But it also shows that it's also a very emotional experience, which is again goes back to why we love this season, because those 4 people did it in a way that we can feel good about at the end. Yeah. That includes this choice here and Becky's choice to not take his idol offer.
So let's get to the best part of this finale. The fire quote unquote making challenge.
There was a fire.
Eventually, it got there. There was one fire. When I started watching this with my girlfriend, I was she didn't know what the tiebreaker would be. So I was like, well, you'll find out shortly. And she's like, oh, fire. That makes a lot of sense. They've been out there. They should all be able to start fires. Like, well, who do you think is going to win this? And she's like, well, I don't remember seeing either of them started, but they were on the Aitu 4. Clearly they've done this a bunch. Like, they'll both be good at this. And I was like, okay, then let's find out. And her opinion on both of them kind of sank very quickly.
That's the other thing. If you're saying that it's really unfair that Becky didn't get her vote, I try to convince me that you're the person who sat through 2 hours of not fire making and be like, yes, I am going to vote that Becky deserves to win, especially against these 2 other people. Like, if she had an opportunity to vote, which I do not believe she did, she lost it, and I think she fairly lost it. Like, those people are like, I'm sober now, what the fuck? Like, we have been here this long. It's bad, and I think we will obviously discuss our feelings, but it is most interesting the people who are watching it for the first time, or if you're like me with somebody who's watching for a second time and did not remember what happened. So after just a minute of fire making, she's like, this isn't interesting, why do we do this? Which is like a good, like a fan perspective, right? We're tired of the fire making.
Good point, Jeff Pro.
That's right. It's like this 1 minute. I'm like, you better buckle up here. And then we get the first Chiron of half an hour, and I'm starting to point at it, and so it even works from that perspective. But now I want to hear from the first timers still.
Every time that Chiron changed, my girlfriend was like, wait, what? No, it can't be like just got extremely more exasperated. And then when Sandra was out, she's like, no one's gonna make fire, this is crazy.
So we obviously Mark, I know your girlfriend has watched recent seasons, but we haven't yet, but he's watched Palau, so we've seen, fire making. Right. And it's funny because the very first one does have matches.
Yeah, they just start with matches.
Oh yeah, he saw and also Panama. So you see it with Suri and Danielle.
Tragic. That's
right. And he was upset at that one. But
legitimately so.
Yeah, fair. And so we're going, and so he's like, okay, yeah, fire making, I remember that. And then the half hour Chiron comes up, and he's just cracking up, and then the hour one, and it's just no.
Yeah,
and I just pull the blanket over my face because I'm dying, because I know it's just gonna keep going.
I always make sure to sit behind her during these moments, just so my face can hide the sheer hilarity of it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I loved about it, watching it for this time, was how the music starts and it's really intense, and from the music, it's building. You think this is gonna happen, and then there's a moment where it just stops dead, and it just when they really kind of commit to the crickets chirping, nothing happening bit, and it's beautiful. It's just really well done.
I think what I liked most from this watch because it's not something I took away in the moment when you're just dumbfounded by the
Right.
procedure, is how steadily disheveled Jeff gets. Like it's clear like his hair product has like lost its hold, and it's just it's great because you can mark time by it, and to the point where like there's no more like Jeffness in his voice or anything. Even though maybe a little raspy, maybe he'd been yelling at production or something. Like yeah, this extreme disappointment of we're going to matches, but even just anything he says there, we've got a fire going.
God, the delivery of "we're going to matches."
The delivery of "we're going to matches" is
matches.
beautiful.
All
So
right, stop.
We're going to matches, and you can see like they perk up. They're like, "Oh, thank God, we'll start a fire now."
They've been whacking at this thing, possibly with no magnesium at any point, just the wrong end of it the entire time. For like an hour and a half at that point, they have to be exhausted.
Yeah. And so the thing is, it's funny because in the reunion, they reveal that they were trying to help each other during the fire making challenge because, of course, they were. They both want to be out of there. They don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah, there was no disappointment by Sandra. She was just glad her torture was over.
So Andy's his favorite part is watching Jeff. I think for me, a big highlight is Ozzy and just like the disappointment in his face.
You can see eventually timing what to do also.
Yeah, it's like just and like you can see it because it's like how we feel. I feel like when you're watching sports or you're watching reality shows and you're like, do the thing,
He's spinning the ball on his finger. Take it, just take it.
But I do think he actually like pantomimes the process of like putting up the and I like at the beginning, he's like, "Oh, this is going to be good. This is. I would sign up to watch this in real life." And maybe also a bit of finally these two, because that is also a good point. Like your viewing partner is like they're part of the R24 who we love, but more than that, they were on a try before. There's fewer spots to hide at that point. The just in the handling of duties. So yes, Ozzy obviously is superior at it. Yule might, but it's like just to feel like you're chipping in. It feels like you probably should have done that. Whereas maybe on a tribe of 8, it would make sense. It's like nobody even wanted me to touch it. At that, I would say still at that point, I don't care. Try it anyway.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you actually think they ever made fire before this?
No, there's no reason for me to think that.
Maybe,
I actually think they probably had. I think they probably had, and they just like totally let the moment get to them, and they just completely biffed it.
They are, and this is one of the things that's so funny in the rewatch, is they are on the challenge that ends with making fire, but there was Cowboy, who does it all. Yeah, who does it all. Honestly, like how does neither of them at any point pick up stuff and just start waving it in the air?
I don't know if they ever got to that point.
Yeah, if it never sparked enough to get
too busy
with the
building
matches, it did.
Yeah, like that would have been incredible. Although Cowboy's not on the jury, so it wouldn't have like gave them anything. But
I mean, but then again, just to contradict the point, the guess I just made, the fact that they both start with a very elaborate structure is actually really bad fire making technique. You don't want to start with that much of a structure because it can smother that. So yeah, they probably
and it clearly did, because that's the thing. It's not like they didn't make a single spark the entire time. They had bits of flame and then it died, and they had bits of flame and it died, and so that lends itself to what you're saying.
And when Becky finally got it, she had dismantled her structure and then built it up as the flame was going. So
both of them had eventually done that. But like, is it within the realm of possibility that they've made fire? Yes. In fact, Becky, I think at the reunion does mention that she practiced, because honestly, the way that it's set up, it's not clear to me that they know what the tiebreaker is. But they should. Sure they do. It has been done.
It had been done before.
So. But in Panama, which I don't know if they would have seen.
And
Palau. Good point.
But that was a final two, like there was two people scenario.
Right. So it's a little tricky.
But she says that she has. So it is within the realm of possibility. But given their performance, I have no reason to say yes to that answer. The evidence I've been given would lead me to an answer of no. No, they've never made fire.
Sorry, Matt and I have had a little bit of like a side conversation. It's not just the Stephanie and Bobby John fire. They figure out that they shouldn't have matches even at the final 4 because it's actually Ian and Jen.
Right.
Do fire when Tom turns on Ian and it's like what? So they if they had seen that season, or been shown, they would know. So it's now a lot of these players are recruits in
I
this
was gonna say this
season.
is mostly recruits, so
Yeah, so
they would have
like,
only seen the prior.
but we don't know how much, you know, they're sending to them and stuff like that. And sometimes recruits are fans. Like that's definitely a thing that happens. I don't think that's the case for either of them, just because Becky seems too serious and Sandra is an actress. So the odds don't point to it. But, you know, hypothetically, in theory, yada, yada, yada. So it had been established as the Final Four tiebreaker at that point. Sorry to interrupt, just thought that was an important thing to nail down.
No.
Okay.
It's good. I mean, because here's the thing. We have no evidence they've made this before. It's hard to believe they hadn't. It's very believable they never did. You know, it's just hard to square that you've been out there for so long and you never made fire. And like, I believe that maybe they had assisted, but they had never done it all on their own before. But like, it still boggles the mind.
Yeah. Or they worked.
I'm gonna say maybe they
but
tended
never
to the
built
fire.
a fire. You know.
Yeah, something like that. It's also easier when you have an existing fire pit, frankly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And look,
I
I fully also understand that, you know, pressure situation, everybody there and all that. But 2 fucking hours. Like, there's no excuses, right?
It's 2
That
hours.
is why you do a poor job of it, not why, like, people have made fire, I believe, quicker, like on Exile Island type deals. So it's just, no, we are right. The children are right to laugh at you for this.
Yes. That's right.
Do we know what they would have done if they ran out of matches? Because Becky was getting really close there.
Maybe they fight for it.
that honestly, they should have been like, you know what, fuck it, we're doing a final 2 after.
Yeah, you're both gone. You're both gone. You know what?
Because it would have been fine.
It would have been completely fair, in fact. The challenge was to make a fire. You both have demonstrated an inability to do so. Goodbye.
And it would have made no difference on the end game.
Now, I don't think anyone has ever asked Probst that question, but I would absolutely love to know the answer. Honestly.
Well, I'm sure they don't know the answer, right? I don't like. I would 100% agree with the idea that we do not have a contingency for 2 people being unable to make fire, because it's either something like they do something else entirely. They do what Emma says, which I actually think is the best and most elegant solution, or they literally say, "All right, here's some Bunsen burners, like just hand them, like, liquid."
I think they would have given them more matches. I think they would have given them both more matches.
He's got a flamethrower.
But yeah, no, it's a great what if. What if Becky had also run out of matches? So,
but in terms of scenes for Survivor, it is glorious. Just
it's fantastic. And then afterwards, you know, we get to the final day where Becky just disappears when the feast arrives, you know, which is a moment I always laugh about.
The shade from Ozzy. Like, interesting. Becky's not here. It's just me and Yule. I bet that's how things are going to be tonight.
Right. Well, and you know, it's like at first they're like, oh, we should wait for her. And then when she finally does arrive, they've clearly been eating. And it's like, how long was she gone?
Yeah, at first
I didn't remember that scene.
Obviously, there's things you need to take care of on the island. And then I'm like, well, maybe they're doing an interview, but I feel like they would cut that short because they know that the boat is arriving. Right. So it's obvious the other thing is possible, but yeah, it was a long ride.
It's a long one.
And honestly, like, again, she's earned a bit of Ozzy's derision. Like, if you're Ozzy, especially, that performance, just like it had to have been a little hard, honestly, difficult to still be polite at this point. Just like,
and he wasn't at Final Tribal because he was asked to say something, you know, like basically mean about the other people, and he brought up the fire challenge because what else are you going to bring up about it?
Well, within his rights. I wonder what Becky Mule said. You know, I'm guessing clearly nothing interesting.
Yeah, I was like, why don't we get that? I guess it's just like Ozzy's kind of annoying.
He wasn't involved as much in the strategy.
Yeah, he didn't do strategy. He just all he did is win.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt that there wasn't really a lot of television there, but I still would have liked to have seen it. Frankly, their struggle to say anything, you know, would have, you know, helped further define them. Not nothing we don't already know, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I would like to see that. Even though it was also
I
like,
want to
sure,
see Yule being nice.
yeah, I mean, it's a bit of thing. Again, it's Adam trying to like impose his dickishness upon these people.
Yes.
But frankly, I
I'm a
wouldn't have
douche,
minded
so
them
you should
throwing
be
it back at it.
too.
Like, we're not going to sink to your level on this. I know that's the way you operate, but I genuinely have respect for these people. Like that would have worked as well. But
And Candace was pretty dickish too with her yes or no questions. So I
Oh,
think
gosh.
the Adam rubbed off on her.
That's one way to phrase it.
Unintended.
Yeah, no, Candace's question sucks. Because first of all, it's clear, like, okay, the yes or no, like when it's like, oh, I'll have to think about that. It's like he did answer, and then it was like over, and then he was explaining why it was an unfair question because it was.
Well, I mean, and you could tell that he was kind of joking when he said that too.
Right.
Like that is a Yule joke right there.
yeah.
Which most people don't get. He's kind of dry, but that's a joke.
No,
and
it was such
you
a
can
dick
also
question.
you can tell also like the way he's saying yes, that he's like, I know this is the only answer you're gonna accept. We had brought this up before weirdly about like Steven and JT, Steven kind of being forced to answer like, yeah, I would have betrayed JT, and he doesn't really know whether he would or not because he just chose not, why think about it until you have to. But they're like, I've decided that this is the way you think, and so that's the honest answer, is you giving the like bad answer, and that's the same with skills. Like, you have to say you're shamelessly playing to the jury, and it's like, why is that even bad?
Yeah,
like,
by qualifying
it,
it's a trap. It's a trap question
Yes.
designed to make him look bad in another attempt from these bratty little fuckers to try and, steal this moment. They can't accept their own failure, so they turn to this. And yeah, it sucks. And frankly, it's questions like Candace's bullshit, and there's it's littered throughout the history of Final Tribal. Why it's good that they got rid of this format, because if she tried to pull that bullshit in the current format, Yule wouldn't have to defend himself. Other people would step in and be like, okay, hold up, Candace, that was fine. Right. That wasn't cool. Like if nobody else, Sandra would have defended him, or the other people. Because it's like, if you genuinely want to know, did you play to the jury? Answer hands down, yes. Was it shamelessly? No, it wasn't shamelessly. It was that this is an element of a game I'm trying to win, so I did. Why did you not?
Right. So
built in.
Yeah, so
I wouldn't have got her vote though, because I used way too many words there.
Right. Yeah, it's yes or no question, Andy. Come on now.
Which is the other way to do it, because she, first of all, knows Yule is a good talker, and the point is to make him look bad. So you have to take away his ability
to fully explain himself, which again deeply offends them, because like, how dare he think?
Right. Yeah.
I hate those three. Have I mentioned that? I think I don't know.
You hadn't. I'm glad you brought it up before we finished podcasting.
I'm so glad they lost. I love this season. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about Final Tribal Council? I mean, there's like a lot there, but it's also pretty straightforward, normal Final Tribal stuff. I don't know.
It was kind of touching when Ozzy talked about his dad.
I thought so. Like, I actually thought Ozzy came off better at Final Tribal than I remember him. Like, I thought that he acquitted himself well there.
That moment, my husband was like, oh, he's got, I mean, we'll get into more of this more, but he's like, oh, jury's eat this shit up. He's got it. He's got it in the bag. And I'm like, he hasn't seen Adam. He hasn't seen Jeremy. Like,
I don't think juries do eat that shit up, honestly.
No, but I'm just like, what? Who has he seen that's pulled this?
That he knows Sandra? This is the sort of thing juries love. Must have been when Sandra.
Yeah, Aris. It wasn't
like
Todd.
I can tell you.
Yeah, real juries.
Yeah, there you go, real juries. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also fun. Well, yeah, and another Final Tribal thing I think is it Rebecca, the most she speaks all season, asks like, what would you do with the money, or like why? And so like Yule has this thing about like representation, which that Ozzy also does. Like, Yeah, but I'm also like, I like the idea that because they essentially say the same thing, that like Rebecca has to be like, okay, choose which ethnicity needs the representation more. Time
Yeah.
to decide. And
She's the
like
one
she
who
is
said it
from a
first.
different ethnicity herself. And so
Right.
it's
Right.
like,
I can't split the middle.
time
Right,
to
you know,
decide.
Yeah, I'm sure Ozzy was like, "Damn it, he took my answer," or or they were like, "Ozzy, stop stealing Yule's answer."
Yeah, I don't know that was originally Ozzy's
I don't know.
answer.
Either.
Like it's also a little like I feel like they started like I think because of the I-24 maybe started like telling Ozzy to like talk about stuff because we have when it's the final three him suddenly having Spanish in his confessionals when in the beginning of the season Cece and Christina spoke Spanish literally so Ozzy wouldn't know what they were saying.
As I said at the time, though, maybe they were wrong about that. Maybe that's like Christina's normal trick to speak that
Right.
in front of other people
And she
not
just forgot
realizing
she's on
that
a
you're not
tribe.
around white people now, unlike maybe your job
Right.
or whatever.
I will say though, the Spanish she did speak was pretty basic, so we don't know. The jury's
Yes,
still
you might have been
out.
able to handle that.
Es
There is that as well.
increíble.
I mean, I could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Another way that the modern finale improves upon it is we wouldn't have had to hear from Rebecca at all because she added nothing to the procedure.
Nope.
Yeah, you'll notice I didn't put the Parade of Losers. I forgot its actual name.
They actually gave it the name in this one.
Oh yeah, rites of
that.
passage. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I remember I was so confused about why they were so excited, and then I realized it's because it's not usually Final Four, so they were cool. It was cool for them to all four get to share in it, which actually makes sense. And I'm like, that's fair. Also, quick note on that is that they didn't say a word about Candace, and I thought that was hilarious.
I noticed that too.
Literally nothing. Oh, delightful. And even
what would have been more
Ozzy
delightful
was
is
nice
like,
to
can we
Trump.
send her to exile again? No.
Just take the torch and throw it off.
Yeah, I was like, it would have been good. Yeah, Ozzy just javelin throws it.
Honestly, my favorite part of the Parade of Losers was Ozzy's reaction to Penner, which was thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
It was more than he ever said to him in person about it, probably.
It was like of all the people to like show that is Ozzy, I think it's really great. Like it honestly is good to see that Ozzy recognizes that that's a big part of it. Obviously Ozzy might have still gotten there because he's just winning, but
he might have won Survivor actually if it had.
Well, but the thing was, he actually lost the challenge after that, so maybe
that's
not.
true. So, because they would have. Well, I guess Yule would have been. Never mind. It doesn't matter. We don't need to get into that.
Too many hypotheticals.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything. I mean, excellent 2000s fashion on the jury. What's with Brad's green undershirt? Like that did not go with his outfit at all. A lot of green on the jury too.
Maybe it was a thing. Sometimes they do that. Like let's all wear.
Yeah, maybe they thought that like green would blend in well because of like a tropical location, and
it was symbolic of their jealousy.
There you go.
Brad was chill. That's not fair.
Yeah, he was fine.
The only other thing I was going to say about Final Tribal and Rites of Passage and all that, like watching an old season because I don't do that often. I miss the Rites of Passage, but I don't miss bitter juries. So I'm much more thankful for the new format.
I was just excited to hear it called Rites of Passage because I had legit forgot what its real name is.
Called.
So I started watching obviously with my kids recently, and even like Australia, they don't give it the name, or if they did, I was talking over it because I was like, oh yeah, we call this the Parade of Losers. So that's what my children call it now when it comes up. Like, Parade of Losers.
Delightful.
Raising them right.
Yeah.
And some people try to tell me it's something else. Like they've given it a different name, but that actually is the name of what used to be the Final Four challenge.
Yes, it gets mixed up with Fallen Comrades which makes sense. You can see where that mix-up would happen. Yeah, in our household, it's the opposite because we've only been watching old seasons, so he only knows a world with Rites of Passage and was like, why is this so long? I'm like, don't worry, they stop eventually. I don't remember when, but at some point it just
not the next season though,
like
which
in
has
the 30s. It takes a really long time to stop doing it.
Like it's
the very next season has the greatest
Rites
of Passage ever. When they show like Lisi saying her inspirational, I've learned such a great thing, and just show clips of her like falling on her face and stuff. And that is what I do miss about the Parades of Losers, is when the editors would get one final dig at somebody, because they're always they're always going to talk about themselves. For one, that's what they're trying to do, right? Like say something inspirational about the game, and people know what they have to say. If every once in a while somebody will be self-effacing and recognize they're there for their own reasons, but usually it's I would have won, everybody got rid of me because I was a threat. And then when the producers use it as an opportunity to show them sucking one more time, I miss that.
Yeah.
Palau also has a good moment where Katie just shoves Janu's torch in the water. Like mostly it's like dropping them, but then she like pushes it down. Although at the same time I'm watching, I'm like, why are they putting these in the ocean? Like this beautiful like place. But it does have a lot of like World War II shipwreck things. That's like its whole theme. So maybe they figure some torches are fine, or maybe they figure they'll just scuba dive and collect them.
I want to do 10 more minutes on Parade of Losers because I have so many others. Just one other thing that I thought of is the flip side is heroes versus villains. Russell uses that as one last chance to talk shit about everybody. Like that is how bad he is at like jury management. Like in the segment that like is basically designed for you to honor people and at least be magnanimous. And he's all like, "That person sucked. I was so much better than them." That guy sucks. That's a hot take. I just want to put it out there.
Okay. And then Yule wins 5-4. It was like the last close vote for a really long time. I think it was the last vote that was a 1 vote margin until Nicaragua, maybe.
Is Nicaragua
giving
one
me a lot
or
to
is
think
it like
about.
2?
I don't remember Nicaragua.
I think Nicaragua.
It is a close vote because it's like a 3-way split as well.
No, Sash doesn't get any votes.
Oh, you're right. Sash
I think it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is a little unfair, but.
Well, I think we all know.
Oh, now we're gonna litigate Nicaragua. Nicaragua was 5-4. Nicaragua was 5-4.
Yeah. What was Gabon? Because Susie actually gets votes.
That's a good question.
It was
it's only the
than
bad
that.
seasons when people get votes on it.
Yeah, that's
when
weird.
it's a season that nobody deserves it, then it's like, I guess so.
And then there's the rare ones where
you're right.
like
Gabon was 4-3. You're right. Gabon was 4-3. So.
But I think this was like probably the closest and strongest.
Right.
matchup.
Yeah,
Close,
because
but
that's
also
the thing.
good.
We don't
Three, like Ghost Island, Borneo, and this.
Yeah, because the thing is, a lot of the early seasons were actually very close. Australia was 1 vote. Borneo was 1 vote. I think
All-Stars was 1 vote. Thailand was 1 vote.
Yeah, Thailand. I think Marquesas.
Wow.
Did he say? But the point is, like, a lot of the early
close,
seasons were really close, and then it didn't happen for a while. And then this is like the last season where you actually, like, for a really long time, where you get 2 people who both deserve it, because they played great games. And then every other close vote, every other 1 vote margin for a really long time is 2 people where no one deserved it. So
pretty much until Ghost Island. Yeah, and I mean, this is the argument for the final 3. It's probably why they've been thinking of, I think they did this season because they just were panicked about canceling the show. But it's like, we keep losing this best person at 3. What if we have 3? And as soon as that happens, everybody's like, well, I ain't letting somebody else that's good even get to 3. So it just shifts to 4, which of course then eventually 20 years later, they're like, well, then we won't let them vote that person out at 4. And it continually, I think they're trying to get a competitive finals with 2 legitimate options. And eventually, I think we'll just have to go to a final 7. And I mean, another reason why votes probably were closer back in the day is that juries were much smaller.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
you don't have the group think.
Right. There's fewer
and
people.
it doesn't take that much. Like, Clay sucks, but 3 votes is a lot easier to get than like 6 or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, but the thing is, like, but this season is really marked by the fact that they both played great games, and they both played like their version of the game flawlessly. Ozzy does not loses 1 immunity challenge, wins pretty much all the reward challenges. Like he plays that as well as you could, and that's the game he plays. You'll completely, at least seemingly completely controls the strategic element of the game, especially post-merge. And so it's not just that you have 2 people who played great games. You have 2 people who played great games that are almost entirely divorced from each other. And so it's like
such a clear,
just a choice of like,
I was
what
just
do
say-
you prefer?
yeah, it's such a clear dichotomy. Actually, my girlfriend was mad that she knew who wins going into the season because it was so close. She wanted that tension of that final vote because it was such a toss-up comparison.
Yeah, and ultimately it isn't that the jury decided that like strategy was more important. More people on that jury were more impressed by what Ozzy did. It's just that, you know, one of them decided to fuck around with them. That's it. Maybe that's the perfect coda to Adam, is that in his attempt to exhibit some level of social control over a game that had left him behind, he doesn't even get to use his like genuine tool, his vote, to decide who he wanted to win. I mean, if he just like lets it happen, he gets to go hang out with his new girlfriend and he gets to help Ozzy win. But instead, he's like, I show you, Jonathan. And then he's like, you'll fine. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. That's a lesson for everybody.
He does probably get an extra like 25K though.
True that.
Maybe not that much. I think the differences
yeah, that's
at
true.
that
Like,
point are pretty
like I think it jumps.
Well, but it's like 3 points. Like it compound because he ended up being 5th. He probably would have
that's a
been
good
like
point. Yeah, he would have been
8th.
like 7th instead.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's actually that might
maybe not 25, but yeah, probably 20.
Yeah,
Like
a chunk of change.
Yeah, because it does like jump significantly from like 4 to whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just like 10K increments or whatever. But.
Right. I mean, and so, I mean, do we want to talk about any like of the specific like votes, like why one person votes for either of these? Like, is there any of these votes that actually surprised you? Let me ask you that.
No, because I've seen this season before. Next.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Look, like as unfair as jury members who haven't met these people are, it is. Ozzy was able to like score 2 votes from people who had never met him, whereas you only had the one person who hadn't met him who also didn't vote for him. So like Ozzy was able to overcome that. On the other hand, maybe that worked in his favor. You know, these people never like were on a tribe with Ozzy. I think it certainly helped.
So all they see is him walking in with the necklace.
Yeah.
And again, I kind of feel like Jenny would have liked Ozzy because honestly, I think Ozzy.
No, I mean, yes, if they had been together, it might not have changed. Who the hell knows with Rebecca? But
right, we know nothing about Rebecca. How would we know that?
No way to know. There's no way to know.
So
I guess she decided which ethnicity she felt was more deserving of representation.
But yeah, otherwise, I don't know.
That's how she phrased it. Phrased her question.
Make enough sense to me. I guess maybe you could say Candace is a bit surprising because she was not in on the Yule deal.
Yeah.
So it requires our our much after the fact knowledge of her and what kind of player she is. That you know she respects the game. She was one of the few fans actually on the season. But again, like, being a fan doesn't preclude being really impressed by what Ozzy did. Like
not at all.
At the end of this season, I'm no more impressed by Yule than I was the first time because mathematically impossible for the most part. Like Yule is genuinely one of my absolute favorite winners. This is one of my absolute favorite wins. Few things in Survivor wherever this satisfying because I mean, as Emma's viewing partner continually discounting his chances of winning prove you never really got a lot of Yules winning. But I did come away with this season with like much improved opinion of Ozzy. And obviously this is because I'm seeing Ozzy 1.0, not being influenced by 2.0, 3.0. Obviously I know those versions exist. I haven't forgotten what happens. But like I do think that like some of it had been rewritten by the way that the community talks about my own opinions formed in his subsequent return. It wasn't like he almost won and it would have been perfectly legitimate. And maybe the other thing is the entire time I watched this the first time, I was rooting for Yule. I wanted Ozzy to fall off that fucking stand. Like I wasn't like, 1, 2, 3 and he deserves it or anything like that. Like Yule. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like he was so impressive this season. And then in this finale itself, like they also make him like even more likable than I remember, not just in the edited finale, but in the reunion as well.
So
his stock rose from
the reunion. So
One thing though I'd like to say about Ozzy really
sure.
quick that I noticed in this is actually more final tribal council stuff, but part of his pitch, and I don't think this like affected anything, but he talked about how like he came into this game as an underdog. It's like he didn't come into the game as an underdog. But then also to prove that point, proceeds to tell them about throwing the challenge to get rid of Philly.
Yeah, but be like, hey, that's not hurting, helping your case.
Yeah,
that
was
shows
what
a
I was like, I don't
strategy
think that
moment.
helps
He's like,
you, dude.
I have one. That one. It's like, oh, the time you threw a challenge
and like
in order to
he could have gotten away with it because when he said the underdog thing, I kind of like, well, he didn't start out as what he threw the challenge and stuff like that, and my husband was like, oh well, none of them know that, and he does sort of do the thing where it's like all of my people were voted out. It's true that his original tribe, none of them made the merge, none of them made the jury. So that, I mean, and in a season divided like that, that's a big deal. But that also meant he could have gotten away with not telling them the challenge.
Yeah. It's like one little reminder. It's like, oh yeah, right. I remember when I didn't like Ozzy. It was also at the beginning of the season. This second time through, I honestly didn't care that much because I'm like, it's probably good to get rid of somebody like Billy. I wouldn't have wanted to hang out with him much anyway. But
you wouldn't have had to wait long.
Yeah.
That is not a strong move for you.
Well, what do we think was Yule? I mean, that's dumb. I was gonna be like, what was Yule's best move of the game? And it's like, that was Jonathan. We know that. Okay,
Yeah, no,
what's like
show you that.
What's like a smaller move of the game?
Saving Becky pre-merge.
That's a good one.
That was the move that I think that's the other big move that I had forgotten. But I think that's the move that really, kind of really helped him before the merge, before the obvious, swinging Jonathan, voting Jonathan out. The other two moves that everyone acknowledges, saving Becky with the first vote of the pre-merge was the big move, I think, for him.
Yeah, I think it also shows that, like, people are assigning him the Godfather status, right? And obviously, like, that's just going to naturally frequently go to the male, right? But I think it shows that there was something to it, because I don't know how it happened. Like, there were so many overwhelming numbers against Becky. I don't know. I had no memory at all of that vote prior to this rewatch, right? Now, not Candace being gone, not any of that. I knew who went. That was it. But yeah, they had overwhelming numbers, and not only it was Cowboy's idea. So, and it was clearly like what Flicka wanted to do. A player who really was governed by her own desires, like what would feel good to me. And they were able to flip that scenario. And I think it's solely because Yule not only convinced Cowboy, but had that conviction and like level of charisma that when he says it, Cowboy's like, okay. And I think so it truly was that what he said carried more weight than what anybody else said. And I think it's obvious in that scenario. Becky, we don't see Becky do anything to save herself. We see Yule and Jonathan do it. We don't see Becky do anything.
And Jonathan doesn't work.
Yeah, that's it. Like, for me, it's not hard to believe that Yule is able to have this conversation with Cowboy. Again, the person who wanted to do this turns him around, and thus Cowboy turns Flicka around. It's all because of, at least from what we see, it seems it's because of Yule's, powers of persuasion. The Jonathan thing, again, is 100% him. Becky's contribution is to help walk him through it. She preps him for the meeting. But she, if she has any involvement in it, we don't see it. And also we see like one episode later being like, I don't really like being around Jonathan. So like, those moments, the three ones you mentioned, like show that it wasn't just that people gave him credit where, later they're like, that was a group decision. It's like, yeah, it was a group decision. But if Yule says, no, we shouldn't vote out Jonathan Penner doesn't get voted out. Whereas if, Ozzy says he really wants to do it, that doesn't matter,
Another thing about Yule's game that I think I appreciated more this time is, I don't know if Yule made all the decisions, but Yule realized he gets credit for taking the, he would gain points by taking credit for the decisions. And so even if he's not making the entirety of the decision, he realizes, hey, this is something I can use. And so he starts taking credit. And maybe that is like a little underhanded. Like he mentions in Final Travel a couple times, like, well, yeah, there were times when I lied. And my girlfriend was like, when? When did you lie? Like, I don't remember you doing that. And I was like, well, there was like, times when he would like tell like Parvati and Adam, well, it's gonna be the other person. But honestly, like it's basically nothing. But this is something where I could see Yule perceiving, yes, I lied about that, because he's like, yeah, I took credit for this when really it wasn't all me, because like Yule's a savvy player and he's like, they're giving me credit. If I deny it, that's not going to help me, but if I take it, it will.
I don't think Cowboy knew he was going home. I don't know if Yule told Penner. So like there are those.
Oh no, there are moments. Don't get me wrong, but I more wanted to kind of point out that I think Yule was it was a part of his game that I liked, that he was like, yeah, I'm going to take credit for this because they're going to give it to me anyway. So steer into that.
And I know it's a bigger move, but like, don't forget the idol too. Like him leveraging that publicly also.
And just finding it, honestly. Like nobody thought he had it because there hadn't been that much time, and that wasn't an easy thing to do, and I know like we're now at this point, like, who cares, man? Whoever finds the idol is just a complete stroke of luck anyway. Everybody goes and looks for it, and whoever happened to go in the right direction or whatever, right?
But back in those days, it was not
back
easy.
then, yeah,
it was clearly impressive enough that most people didn't just ruled out the possibility of it.
Yeah. So, so the reunion. There were a few highlights, as Emma pointed out in our Slack discussion. It seemed like Ozzy was really caught off guard that Adam decided how he decided.
Yeah, that couldn't have been fun to hear. He learns that the deal that Adam and sort of Parvati made with Yule, that if Jonathan went before them, that Yule would get his vote. And like I was like, that wasn't just his call, which I mean, like we were just discussing, we could debate on how true that actually is. Maybe they all wanted to and Yule allows it to happen. But and I do love Adam being like, well, I wanted to vote for Ozzy. And it's like, I don't know if it's like good or bad, like as much of a douchebag that he is, that he just didn't consider just like doing it anyway. Like just lie. What? Yeah. And also the reunion makeup was terrible.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Especially back then. Hey, at least Ozzy got a car.
That's true.
Ozzy
I did not remember that being like a fan favorite award at that time. So that was interesting.
So what had happened was they pulled the car reward from this season.
Oh, right.
When it was announced that they were going to do a race wars competition. So the sponsor wanted no part of it. And then I imagine as the season goes on, they're like, okay, this isn't what we thought it would be. And thus, but it's too late, obviously, to insert that into proceedings that have already occurred. When it's airing. So I'm guessing that once it started airing, it isn't the big controversy. The controversy died down pretty quickly. 3 episodes in, they're no longer divided. Then I'm guessing the sponsor's like, okay, we have the car anyway. We because the next season, famously,
also the next season.
Yeah, the next season the car backfires. So they tease it here,
and then it's done forever.
Yeah, Probst teases the car right at this reunion, and then man, geez, that moment.
Oh, I showed my husband a clip of that because we're gonna watch Micronesia next. I just wanted to have some context of Yao Man, and he was like, and he still voted for him. Like he was aghast. He was horrified. It was amazing. But also Adam and Candace, tragically not still together. Those crazy kids could not make the long distance work.
There was a lot of relationship questions in that reunion. I don't remember it being so TMZ.
Yeah, like it makes sense to ask about Adam and Candace, but like that is
Becky
just like
Yule.
Becky and Yule, you're members of the opposite sex.
Discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You
were
canonically
people,
said
like,
that he
shipping-
was
were
like your
people
brother.
shipping them? I don't know.
I'm sure people were. because
Yeah,
that's
I'm
what
sure they
people
were.
do.
But
And
That's
Nate
because
and Parvati
people are
too.
like, oh, but boy, girl.
but here's the thing. You know, the Candace and Adam question leads to one of the greatest Probst transitions ever, which is Billy. Candace is now available. You
I was just
know?
gonna mention that.
Which is untrue, but it's great.
Yeah, technically not true, but a great
He's
moment.
so ashamed.
Oh.
Like he
Well,
plays it
Billy
off, but
handled
he's
that very
ashamed.
well. And in his answer, he actually teased that a thing that I brought up as a theory, and that a lot of it was like him just trying to save face. Which I know, like, why would something like that, as embarrassing?
Truly the worst.
Yeah, it's
attempt
not
at
the best
saving
decision making for that. But it's like, you guys are trying to punk me. I'll show you. The hottest girl in here told me she loved me, and I love her too.
Right.
She's not even the hottest girl, Billy.
I know, not even close.
Parvati's
But,
right
you know,
there.
people have their types.
Everyone has their types.
Mark was saying that I don't remember it always being like that. Man, it's always like that. Like,
It's always,
reunions are fucking rough.
Yeah.
They suck.
This is why I
I
think
Billy
actually
don't
thought this
always
one,
ask
frankly,
for-
is one of the better
Eric.
ones. Like, I actually thought
Yeah.
this one was like fine
Yeah, it was
comparatively.
fine because,
Like,
frankly, because
We just
these
watched
people-
China. He asked Eric about his virginity on that, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
not
it
good.
helps.
I mean, obviously,
It
with
helps when my
All-Stars,
girlfriend hates the reunion,
question was
so I
always
just
going to be
skip them.
asked.
Right.
But in All Stars, he also talks about Ethan and Jenna, like Jenna 2,
Yeah.
not Jenna 1. Like,
Right, yes.
it's always this gossipy shit because, frankly, that's the things that the fans are probably going for.
Yeah.
It's the buzzy stuff that was probably in TV Guide. And it's, again, when people say they're bad now, it's like, what good era are you, like, hallmarking to? You know, is it that you miss Brian Gumble? It's not. I
God.
fucking promise
Well, no.
you.
Well, the thing
It's
is,
not
I
that
think,
you
I
miss
think
Rosie
fans
O'Donnell.
miss-
So then it's
I
just
think
like,
fans
well,
miss the gossipy stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
they don't. though.
legit missed that.
like the
Because the
scene.
people
I
that
don't know why.
complain that they're not enough time given to the reunion or like write down all the people who were snubbed. Interestingly, I don't believe anybody, not even Rebecca, was for this one. Is Jeff Probst was always the person asking the question. So ask yourself, do you really want a show that is solely 100% uneditedly dictated by the things that interest Jeff Probst? And the answer should be no, because you guys all hate him and think he's the worst person at his job and is actively looking to ruin the TV show you claim to love. So no, the best reunion ever, hands down, is not even close, was, Winners at War. Just 2 minutes.
Yeah, just 2 minutes, just in and out. Right. Yeah, no. But no, there were a few things I liked in this one. Yul explaining his strategy when he flipped Penner was like genuinely like, oh, we get more Yul insight. He's like, so I explained to Penner there was going to be this plan where we move the idol around and that, statistically he would be likely to go home within 2 votes. And everyone else is like, what the hell are you talking about? And Penner's like, yep, no, that's true. And but it's just a great like insight into Yul and there. But he also mentioned that he was the one that said like the only reason they haven't voted you out is because they think you have the idol, which I guess is why we've been saying that for so long. It's because maybe Yul incepted that into our mind.
Oh, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
and then and like so if they had voted for you and Yul has to play the idol, well, now they know that Jonathan doesn't have it, and bye-bye, Jonathan.
Right.
Yeah. If not now, then like if you guys take control, you're not going to go very far. Yeah.
Right. And so the thing about that was like it's legitimate insight into the most pivotal moment of the game.
And that's what people are
what I
looking
wanna
for
hear.
when they want more out of a reunion. But that's not what you're going to get. It's rare. You got that because Yul Kwan was the person answering the question.
Exactly.
Not because this format lends itself to that, because it doesn't. Even if you don't hate Jeff Probst and all his works, it's a live environment amongst a bunch of non-actors. And again, in the past, in Cook Islands, it served something. This was going to be the last time that we would hear from these people, unless maybe like you read something on Entertainment Weekly or something. Now you will hear like, the most inconsequential member of that jury speak for 3 hours on their Survivor experience.
And more importantly, we can find out who's dating who from Instagram.
Yeah, we already know. Some of them
Yeah.
might be banned from
Before
this
the
very
show.
finale for letting us know already.
Right.
So
Or
yeah,
Alec.
no. And look, I think the live finale environment, the viewing, the party. We don't need to get rid of any of those things. I'm sure it'd be nice if Emma could attend one again someday. But for a TV experience, just give me more real finale, because the reunion is always cringe. And again, this one wasn't even that cringy. They did talk to everybody. I don't know if Jeff Probst is really the person I want to unlock, the deep divisions within like minority communities.
Okay, so that's the other question I was going to bring up,
tried.
because the other question that I thought was really interesting, but I thought Jeff Probst was not the right person to ask it, was, so Nate, apparently people thought you were a race traitor, and it was like, whoa, what?
Tell me why in the minute and a half that I have to deal with this segment in what we always treat as a celebration. Get into it. No.
Yeah. That one, I was like, don't remember this. What is
No,
going
I
on
had
here?
no memory of that either. That was rough, man.
I definitely did a double look at my screen, like, what?
You reframe it, and it's like the people, like the viewers, maybe he's dealing with that, the people at home. But the way that the answer started to come by, Stephanie, I think, might have been saying that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was specifically said by Stephanie and Rebecca, and I was like,
and like Stephanie and Rebecca are not people we heard from very much, so it's hard to say. But I will say, Stephanie, if you don't want to go home, maybe stop mentioning it multiple times.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
In her Parade of Losers segment, she seems to confirm it.
Yep, she does 100%.
And I think, and we've criticized Nate, and I think Nate, even the first time, tries to help, like, it's like, oh, like, okay, like, and also it's like, well, if she wants to leave, we're gonna give her like the best exit and like make sure she feels really honored.
Right.
And
then Rebecca, it's like, he did carry her. Like, you were pathetic at challenges. Eventually, there's only so much that can be done. You're not offering him anything. But also allow me, a fellow white person, to really dig into this topic.
He at least didn't vote for Jenny. I mean, that's obviously not his race.
That doesn't help her. Yeah,
right. Doesn't help.
Yeah.
Anyway, any final thoughts on the season from you or from the person you've been watching with the entire time?
But let's start with the what are we calling them? Viewing partners. I want to hear.
You want to use the correct terminology, the PC term.
ERP viewing partners, TM. Not registered trademark. We're not paying for that.
Yeah, that's what
what was this is the first time viewing for all of them. For you, Matt, the first time viewing a season of Survivor. Let's start there, Matt. How did she like the season? How did she like the result? And is she willing to do this again?
I think she's willing to do it again. She did like the season. She's like more into it in the moment than afterwards. Like when she's talking about it, she's like, oh yeah, no, I see why you like it. You like the strategy. It's, interesting to kind of like find out why you like this show so much. And then I have to remind her, this is like not among my like top 20 shows or whatever. Anyway, but she did like the season. She had predicted going into the final tribal council, she said, I think Yul will win 5-4. And I was like, let's find out. So
didn't she call the mutiny too? Is she a witch?
Is
she a witch?
Yes, bring her on the podcast. Sorry, Matt.
I'm gone.
Either that or she's like looking at spoilers behind your back.
What I'll start doing is for new seasons, I'll start asking her for prediction picks.
Ooh.
So
and when she can't predict that person A has an idol and person C nullifies it, but person B had an advantage, we'll be like, you don't know shit. That's how it is.
It's like, why did I ask you these questions? But she liked it. She felt bad for Becky at Tribal, but also very much subscribed to the Parvati viewpoint of, you're sitting between giants. She was like, how do you choose? She was kind of hung up on the idea of like, they don't tell you what the criteria is for what a winner is. So how do you even choose what a winner is? And I'm like, well, that's in many ways kind of the strength of the show is that you get to decide what that is and you get to, make it. And, usually the people sitting there have more complicated games than the very pure games played by Yul and Ozzy. And she kind of is like, she, like me, is a lawyer. She likes rules. This does not have those rules. So in some sense, that kind of is like unmoors her. We didn't watch the reunion together. We didn't have enough time. So she doesn't have any thoughts on that. But she liked the season overall. She really enjoyed the underdog story. So
yeah, it's actually to get into that topic really quickly about not having a criteria. I like that they don't pretend there is one, because even if there is one, people will still vote the way you want to vote. Like we often have that, like when we're just setting up voting for like stupid bullshit website stuff, and like at least one of you, maybe it's Matt, it's probably Brad though, who's like, "What's the criteria?" I'm like, why tell people? People will click whatever radio button they want for whatever reason they want. We can't make them justify their vote. So
that
why
is definitely Brad. Do not put that on me.
why pretend like there is a criteria? And frankly, as lawyers, you should know that juries will vote for whatever the reason they want to as well, even if the judge gives them instructions at times. The criteria could be, I like that guy's sweater, so clearly he was innocent.
Right. Right. And then the other thing about not having a criteria is that if they did build a criteria, it would almost certainly exclude certain people who do other things really well that the show and Probst doesn't value. So,
yes, if Survivor and CBS and Jeff Probst could impose a criteria, and some people would argue that they've been trying to do that since Go Wrong or whatever, is that it would not go well for a lot of people.
Yeah. And her last thought is, as mentioned previously, she doesn't like how physical the challenges are. And she was really hoping the Final Four challenge would be something completely not physical and, like a real curveball to really make Ozzy earn it. And then it was just stand on the thing for a really long time. And she was very disappointed by that. So
it's a shame we just did Pearl Island, because she'd get a kick out. She'd love the word search.
I mentioned to her, she's like, there should be a word search. I was like, so the thing about that is they tried that. It did not go well.
They actually do a different form, like a more elevated form of word search in All Stars the very next season. So apparently they weren't spooked by that.
Well,
it's one of those where they you had to find it was a circle and then you had to find the letter. So it was not, write your own words. I guess they figured that was the hack. And
I think I also explained to her the Token Jeans one that Fishback wins, because I'm like, so, there was like one challenge where they have to run out somewhere and then they got to like memorize something and bring it back and they got to do a bunch of trips, but someone just made up a mnemonic and did it in one trip. And she's like, oh, that's really ingenious. I'm like, yeah. So you see, physical isn't the end all be all of these things.
Well, so you weren't here last week. How did she take the mud? Was that also too physical? Being able to, cake oneself in mud?
Well, apparently, because Ozzy destroyed everyone. So, which, like you guys last week, she has no idea how he won by so much, because it makes no sense. So,
he's just that good.
All right, Emma, how did he take that Yule actually won?
So frustrating. I mean, it was fine. He was happy, but almost the whole season, he's like a Yule guy and he's rooted for Yule. And then right at the end, he's suddenly like, oh, like Ozzy. I think I would vote for Ozzy. It's like, God damn it.
You know what? He deserves the loss.
Yeah, it's fine to like Ozzy, of course, but I I was like, okay, cool. He likes Yule from episode 1. We're gonna like this season. It's gonna be good. But I think he had just convinced himself, because he was very much like, oh, the jury's not gonna they're gonna be mad at him, all the Raro people will be mad at Yule and they won't be mad at Ozzy and blah blah blah. And what I've come to remember is, we've been watching a lot of older seasons, as you guys know, but he did watch one modern season live with me, and that was Go Wrong. And you see what happens when someone imprints on Michelle's win. They think Yule can't win. Yep. So
was that his first season? Was Go Wrong?
Yeah. It was.
That's a shame.
It is. But yeah, he really liked the season. He said that it's his number 2 after China. He's so far, he really likes China, which I respect because I love China, except he doesn't like Courtney, guys.
Gotta break
Should have
up.
put that in the prenup.
Sorry.
I know. But yeah, because I think he's very game focused. So one thing too I noticed is that there was something I mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago, where he referred to Becky as a puppet master. And then he's like, oh, Becky's terrible. And I was like, well, you said she hasn't done anything. I was like, you said she was a puppet master. He's like, look, I take what the episode gives me. Like, I think it's very much like not do, it's like the episode is showing Ozzy's doing great at challenges. And so there you go. And like Yule is running things. And so there you go. Which, I mean, that's what we're given. It makes sense. So yeah, he was, I mean, down to the end, like you guys suggested on Slack, I paused when there was one vote. Like, he was surprised he was getting that close, and then it was tied. I was like, all right, who do you think? And he's like, Ozzy. I think it's Ozzy. And then it's you. And he was like, wow, you're what? Like, good for him. Like he was definitely still happy and stuff. And he said it was a good story, good characters, good season.
Accurate.
The final.
Mark, what about you?
I got a lot of that same thing. I mean, obviously my viewing partner for this is probably the most seasoned of the newbies. So she's seen a lot of stuff and knew the winner going in.
So for Andy's wife.
Newbies. I've seen 39 seasons, but I still think I get where
I'm
you're
sorry, Andy.
I know I'm going to hear about this, but it was
That's why I'm apologizing.
For a lot of the
I don't know
seasons
if you
that
want her name said, but Andy's wife, I like you. It's fine.
Same.
she knows we all love her. Anyway, my viewing partner, like, she really liked the season for a lot of the same reasons that we liked it. Like, she was really impressed by Yule. She's just like, oh my god, he's so attractive and smart and like thoughtful. Like, I love it. He's a triple threat. And then the underdog story was like the real driving force. Like, I didn't say what happened at all, but as soon as she saw that coming into view a couple episodes ago, she's like, this is amazing. I hope they do it. I hope they do it, because she was convinced for a while that Yule goes to the end with two goats, probably Becky and Sundra. But then when it became a true matchup, she was like, I wish I didn't know who won. This would have been so much better. But yeah, we did
and
rankings.
That's why you don't start with season 40, Emma's brother.
We did rankings after the fact, and this is of the like 10 that we've done, this is probably her fifth or sixth. So it's right there in the middle, but we've seen like top tier stuff.
Yeah, you've done like Heroes, Villains, and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've done like cream of the crop. So
you're not dragging the dregs here. All right, it's time to watch Thailand. No.
Exactly. But
so we were clear, it is never time.
I won't do that to myself.
Never.
I haven't watched Thailand. It's the only season I haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't finished that or Nicaragua.
I watched it in like 2003, and I'm
whatever
good.
season it is, that was good. I'm good.
Yeah.
But even in my own rankings, like watching this, I liked it a lot more than I not remembered, but have since convinced myself that it was. Like, over time, it kind of dropped slowly in my like top 15, just because of like, I tried to watch the pre-merge a couple times, couldn't get through it, so that was kind of affecting my memories. But now that I powered through it, this might go in my top 10 when we do our next rankings.
So I have it in my top 5. I looked at it recently, but I've already forgotten because numbers are my enemy. But I think actually I've had it 4th. And it was one of those questions because there's enough, people out there, spouting the other opinion. And now that can go to one of two ways with me. It could be like, oh, well, maybe I need to reassess, or more likely, fuck you, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right.
No, it's the children who are wrong.
That's true. But it's so long ago, right? It has been a long time. Now I am always hesitant to completely like reevaluate my stand, because I believe that the truest opinion and feeling is what it gave to you the first time you watched it. When it is an outcome driven show, and when you know the outcome, it can still be a rewarding experience. I'll say right now, it was, but it is a very different experience, but with just like the past and me being a different viewer, it's like, it's possible I've been overrating it all this time, in part, as a, personal stance, but no, I have had it properly rated. It is as good as I remember it. The story is pure and fun. And, what has always baffled me is the arguments people make against it, and they have all these reasons. Like, you're overthinking it. It was 4 likable people beat a bunch of assholes, and like a smart, good-looking guy. The guy part isn't important, but like a player who uses his intelligence to succeed. We are not so overwhelmed with 40 examples of such behavior happening. It is incredibly rare that, we've never had a story like this before and after. And frankly, I don't know if it would work as well. But like, just like getting Yule type winners, there aren't many, if any. So that's why I love this season. And watching it again, only like, it was like revisiting an old friend.
Yeah. I looked at where I had it ranked, and it's in my top 10. It's not in my top 5. Part of that is just I love, certain seasons that I love. But one thing I noticed on, looking at my rankings again, I have Pearl Islands one ahead of it. And I think actually after rewatching both of them just now, I think I would flip them. I think I'd have
Wow.
one ahead of Pearl Islands.
One of us.
So
Because-
I think I'm the opposite.
But
I'm
they're
the
similar.
exact opposite. I believe I have Cook Islands then Pearl Islands, and I nailed it.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. Like after rewatching, I'm like, maybe I would flip them now. Like those are, but again, like at that point, like, to me, like Cook Islands is a great season. It's not like one of the very few that I'm like, this is the best season, but it's in that very next tier where it's like, if it's not the A+, it's an A. So.
Yeah.
And I still think it's a good season to introduce somebody to Survivor, as long as you can talk and walk them past the
race
concept.
wars.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a
Maybe
great
not the
season to
first
introduce
season.
people to.
because it's such a
I think
simple and pure and feel good story. They'd be like, yeah, I like this show. Whereas it's tough to be like, oh, this one has a lot of great fun twists and turns. And at the end, somebody you don't care about wins, or somebody you don't feel, like, let Survivor do that to you eventually. It won't take long. But leave them like walking away feeling good.
I started my viewing partner on Philippines, and so it's been really interesting to she's been Benjamin buttoning Penner's arc, watching it in reverse, and now it finally makes sense.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to know how I felt about the season?
Yes.
Best for last.
So surprise, surprise, just like Andy, I have it in my top 5. I'm pretty sure, I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure that it has been. And yeah, I mean,
You do not.
I used to. I think you guys
6.
bullied me into
You had
not.
6.
Because I think at one point I had it at 3, and I was like the only one who had it that high, and I felt bullied. So I changed it because of men.
That's fair.
Yeah, but actually, and a big part of it is because I really like Cambodia. But I'll see how I feel when I get to that again eventually. But yeah, it's a great season, and it is funny. Like Mark was saying about his girlfriend and Yul, is that the first time I watched this, I was like 16. So I think, and was very, I really do feel like it was one of those things where I liked Yul and Ozzy a lot. And I can't even really remember which one I leaned for, but I had the crush on Ozzy, and now that has changed. Part of that, I think, is like, this Yule is 31. I am almost 31. It's perfect. Past Yule, call me. But also, he's so hot. He's so hot. But it's a fun season. I liked, Ozzy is fun this time around, and watching like the challenges. It's interesting, as someone who is a Parvati stan, remembering her flaws and her ignoble beginnings. I hate Adam so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as I said, that
about,
adds to the enjoyment of the season.
It does, like, because he's gonna go down, and like I gotta say, no one, like, people talk about it, no one talks about Adam sucking. Like, that has not survived in the culture, and we need to talk about it more. Adam Gentry, his last name is Gentry.
Ruining cities everywhere.
Like, wow, we get it. You're a privileged white man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Also, Emma, I should apologize when I looked to see who had it 6. That was actually Brad, because for some reason,
well, it's impossible because our names aren't on the most.
Yeah, I was gonna say the names aren't on there, so I actually don't know which one is you. But if you go by alphabetical order,
Micronesia 1. That's you, right? Or do you have it 2? Emma?
I have it 2. I have Heroes vs.
Okay, then you
Villains
have
1
Cook as
because
4.
I'm not a
You have Cook as
Philistine.
4. You have Cook as 4. There you go.
And I'm the first.
I was right.
But then why is it not in alphabetical order? Because this makes no sense.
Do you want to know the answer? I can tell you the answer. It's in alphabetical order of the top 2 who matter, and then it's also in alphabetical.
No. But then it's not. No, but then it's not because Emma's not after Brad. Emma's after either me or Mark, and then someone else.
Actually,
this is why I wrote mine in a separate note.
Yeah, this is. Anyway, we have gotten way off topic here.
The point is, I was correct in my assessment, and Matt made me feel like a liar and gaslit me.
That's accurate. Yes, that is correct. Sorry.
Gaslit me, and it's terrible. After bullying me to lower it, which I clearly didn't actually do. So
I've never bullied you ever. I only ever say nice things about you. These are
Lies.
my
In
podcasting.
conclusion, and what's important to note is we are right as
Yes.
individuals, but also as a site. And
Yes.
I think that is the biggest takeaway from this rewatch.
Yes.
And that every once in a while, because the most popular topic of our entire output, the one that leads so many people, is that rankings post.
Yeah.
And frankly, a lot of times this is one that will get pushback. And I think it's, if you are somebody who does not think very highly of this season, you should probably leave. I don't mean that.
After you
I'm like,
listen to
I
14
know
episodes of
exactly
the
what you
show.
mean, but it's so funny. Yeah,
Say
like
it. No, look, I mean, I said
you don't
that
have
in
the
the most
energy
rude
you
way
want. That's
possible
fine.
for exactly what I just got out of you people the last. But more, it's just like, it's clear that like we're not going to offer you what you want. We get different things out of this show.
Yeah.
Like it is, Cook Islands is very much like a bulwark of like our opinion and what kind of opinion you're going to get from this sort of site. Much like Nicaragua at the very bottom. If you're somebody like, I love Nicaragua, it's such drama and all that, you're hunting the wrong place here. So yeah, I think this season has proven that like this is a Cook Islands approved site. And if
Yes.
you're that kind of fan, and you don't need to be top 5, you that would make you more
Yeah.
correct. But like if you're somebody who like finds the season dull, you probably will not really jive with the analysis and the way that we view the show. And the good news is there's like 2,000 podcasts out there, so I'm sure you could find another one. And I'm
Not
not
even
really
the most
suggesting you
popular
have to
one.
leave.
So
I say you have to leave, but like this is like very much like an example of that, because all of us have it ranked highly. I think probably the lowest is around probably 11, 12, Matt. Is that
no, I think the lowest is 10.
10. There you
That
go.
we're just me.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
So that's kind of thing. If you're like, oh, you guys have it ranked too high, it's like, no, that's the kind of site we are. That feels
Sorry,
like a
we
wrap
like
up, but I have one other thing I
minorities.
want to talk about for this season.
Sure.
We keep talking about it around, and also it's on the breakdown in front of us. Who do we think is the best challenge performer of all time? And obviously, I'm
Ozzy.
asking this because we keep talking about Ozzy.
I mean, I think this version of Ozzy is the best. Like,
Yeah,
now you can
Ozzy
say
1.0.
like, as he gets older, like, his entire life, he's not as good. Well, sure. But this version of Ozzy is just unstoppable.
Yeah, I think we can ultimately throw out like oldest performer type stuff, just as you don't say Michael Jordan that great, because what did he do with the Wizards? His efficiency.
Right, exactly. He was still pretty good with the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
he was
it
still
wasn't
averaging
Michael
over
Jordan.
20.
And we've erased Ozzy on Game Changers from our memory. I don't think he was actually there, but he was certainly, like, what he did on Redemption Island in South Pacific shows that he still
Right.
got it.
Yeah, but then he just lost the Final 5 challenge that he did here to Sophie, I think. So
Yeah, 'cause
it can happen, right? So for me, there is a definite top 3. When I was looking at the list, I think there are 3 that stand above. And for me, also, I feel like you need multi-season performance to really judge, because
whoa. Wait, so you're saying that Jason Siska isn't on this list?
not.
Ozzy's not the only godlike competitor in this game.
I know it's unfortunate, but maybe that's why, because I'm valuing multi-seasons. Pardon, Jason. Largely because that removes the variables of what type of challenges your season had and your competition, right? Mike Holloway dominating worlds, winners, whatever.
Worlds apart.
But like as it started to drag along, it's like they're not really competing against the cream of the crop here, right? Yeah. Again, maybe he's really good. I need to see him against other people. So for me, the top 3 are Ozzy, Joe Anglim, and Boston Rob. And I think the stats also kind of bear it out. Like Dawson Robb has won more individual challenges than anybody else. This is where people are like, yeah, he's had more chances. But honestly, not really. Because most of the seasons he doesn't get to the individual portion of the game. Now, it's not always about individual, because what factors in here, and this is where Joe really shines, is like team success, right? Like
I think that's where Ozzy shines too, frankly.
Yes,
Yeah.
We just saw him carry 4 people to the end, absolutely. But yeah, like Joe Anglim, after he decides like he doesn't have to throw challenges to get rid of the disabled member of his tribe, he never loses again. Like he does not go to tribal council in his subsequent 2nd or 3rd seasons. In the tribal portion. all that said, Ozzy I think is better than those two. I think he is.
Yeah, and Joe also, I think what's interesting about him, besides is that he's really good. We've seen him be really good at puzzles and stuff like that. We see that less often with Ozzy, but we do see success with that. But I think that was the thing that really sparked attention for Joe the first time, is that like, wow, he's like super athletic, and he's like, he's a jewelry designer, so he's great at this like artsy puzzle and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, we never do we ever even see him do like a water challenge the same way we see for Ozzy?
I mean, they don't do that, like, no.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
do
because they
them
don't
like
do it
used
as
to,
much.
yeah.
So,
But like he did, like, say, chase down Kelly in like the swim to the thing to kick off
Sure.
Cambodia. So like he
Yeah,
can,
I
we know
mean-
he can swim really well. I have no reason to believe he can swim as well as Ozzy, because I have no real reason to believe any survivor
Anyone.
can. And I think that is what
Well,
sets Ozzy
except
apart.
for the one
Including
who is
maybe
the Olympic
Elizabeth
swimmer,
Zweifel.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Still
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, because it's not just about swimming. It's not just swimming in a pool, for one, it's ocean.
Right.
But it's the way he dives and swims, right? So like
Yeah, that's
in the
true.
water, give me Ozzy against anyone. Yeah, and then Boston Rob elevates to that part because of puzzles as well. He is
Yeah.
really strong at puzzles
Yeah.
as well as physical stuff, right? But so yeah, I don't think that's a strength of Ozzy, but as we saw in this episode, it's not a weakness either. It's not somebody who's like really great at that, but like you can get him out of puzzles. Like he could also probably win a puzzle, especially given
He's not Tony desperately moving the
just
slide
moving slides
puzzle
around.
around.
Tony at the slide puzzles
Oh.
is
he
dumb.
won. Didn't he win the slide puzzle in Winners at War? Or he
I'm
won
pretty
some kind of
sure.
patience challenge,
Or
or
he
something. Yeah.
he
It
got
wasn't a slide
through
puzzle,
it.
but-
Like
He got through it. I don't think he
he
won.
got through it. It wasn't like the just
Yeah, but
moving
he
and
won
hoping
two
for the
challenges
best.
that we did not like. You would not have expected, Tony. But anyway,
Right, but but anyway, but like also like another skill of Ozzy, like that like move the ball through the board maze. I didn't remember. He just like went through that thing in a second. I was like, oh, I didn't remember that.
That was-
like
you're just physical
yeah.
stuff, viewing partner. Say like he's
Yeah.
just literally good at everything. Just
Yeah, and this is
everything.
another reason why like I feel Ozzy is. I mean, you could argue the biggest reason why I have Ozzy at number one is recency bias. But I also just watched All Stars, so there's that. I was kind of watching them simultaneously, but it's not just that he wins at everything. He fucking dominates at everything.
Yeah.
Like these are not close victories, and his
Keep in the
competition
mud.
do not seem unathletic, right? Like
Right.
he was
Right.
competing against a lot of seemingly strong people we've seen be strong in other things. Parvati, Candace have done well in future seasons. Adam, I think, played some like high level sports. Nate seemed very strong.
Probably
Nate-
lacrosse. Just guessing there.
Yeah, if I had to
He is
JP,
soft,
like,
so it
like
could just be
he's
football.
swimming with JP, and like he is just way out in front. Like he just made everybody look so much worse. He had twice as much mud as everybody. So it's not, like it's not just that he's
Mud.
like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think just like his dominance at the things that he's good at, I think is what puts him number one. It's not that he's squeaking out victories, is
Yeah.
that he is
Well,
just
but
that
the
guy.
thing is, I don't think he ever dominates to the same extent he does in this season and future seasons.
Mhm.
Even when he's winning a
Well,
bunch of
he
the-
had to face Jason Siska the next time,
That's right.
and
Right.
that's
And,
hard.
but no, I mean, but like even when he's winning a bunch of the Redemption Island ones, like some of those he dominates, but not all of them. from what
Cochran
I
almost
remember.
had him
Cochran
according to
almost
the way
had
it
him.
was edited. It probably wasn't that close.
Yeah, but my point is like this season he dominates, and like in that sense, like there are a few people who like totally dominated a single season, just usually they don't get to the end. Like Colby completely dominated Australia. He was winning everything. Like Colby in Australia is like the one comparison. The problem is Colby every time afterwards ain't even close.
Well, here's the other thing, because I've watched Australia in the past year, and you haven't
Yeah.
probably, and how
No.
long. They weren't particularly difficult challenges.
No, they weren't.
And he was competing against like Roger and Elizabeth and like
Right.
Keith and Tina.
Elizabeth
But like some of it was like
dying of
shooting,
celiac
like there were
disease.
some like pretty low
Sure.
physical challenges. There was like a couple of difficult ones. Whereas that's the flip side of the argument that like why make all the challenges just for the best athlete is like Ozzy has no like simple wins. Like there's no
Yeah.
challenge where it's just like he happened to be like somewhere near to the target with a blow gun,
Right.
or he reached into a bag and drew the right marble or anything like that. Like, yeah, so that's also why he's more impressive. Like, we just see him just smoking.
Yeah. Right. So and then the other two kind of like single season dominances are Tom
And
in
Terry.
Palau.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that
You know,
right?
he lifts his tribe,
Mm.
and then he wins all but I think 2 of the post-merge immunities.
Yeah, but
And he
I
wins a
think
lot of the rewards too.
yeah,
I think
I
it's just
mean
one
Ian.
post-merge immunity, isn't it? Isn't it
I think
just the
it's
one where
no, it's 2.
No, it's
I'm
2.
almost positive.
It's 2. I just
you just
watched
saw
it.
it, so yeah.
And you know, yeah, definitely, he's definitely a huge part of Karora's wins. Although an important factor is they eventually have so many more people than Oolong that they're sitting out so many people that like Tom's not even doing all of those challenges, which you know you don't get there without that early dominance. But they, you know, Ian and Greg and Kobe do their part there as well.
Right.
Yeah. And then Terry would be the other one that you were gonna say?
Terry's the other one that I would bring up as like the single season dominant performance.
I think people like that definitely have the place in the top 10. Also, like
Yeah.
Kim Spradlin ranks pretty highly in challenge
Yes,
strength.
that's a great point.
But they're not in the top 3.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. So anyway, that's our weekly challenge discussion because that's what we do when we watch seasons.
We're
So
just a bunch of jocks.
right. So a couple more things before we end this. There's some rumors about what's happening in season 41, namely that the season might be
Wait, before
shorter.
you say, just want to say, you know, if anyone doesn't like to have any information at all before a season, we're not revealing any like results. It's just formatting. It's not even cast. It's really just formatting stuff. So I know some people like really don't like to know anything. If you are one of those, you can stop here. Will we have anything?
Well, then before we do that, let me just say
Yeah.
thank you for everyone who's listened along for the entire season. We really appreciate that. I'm not sure if we're going to do another rewatch before the new season airs. It's kind of up in the air. And I mean, we just don't know. So maybe we'll do something over the summer. Maybe we won't. But if we don't, hopefully we'll see you in the fall when we expect season 41 to air. And now, if you don't want to hear anything at all about season 41, even the most cursory format stuff, you can just tune out right now. Okay, we gave you a second. The rumor we wanted to discuss was that season 41 might be shorter.
41 and 42 is the rumor.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of the days out there. Now, this is probably because they have to quarantine people on the way in and out. And frankly, that just adds a lot of time that they're going to be away from their jobs and their families. And this is a way to kind of get people on the show that, you know, might be having conflicts.
And we are still in a pandemic, so.
Yeah, there is a global pandemic still.
Yeah.
Who knew?
The reaction to this was a perfect microcosm of Survivor Twitter fandom at the very least. I did not see what it was anywhere else because that's why I don't go to those places, and we didn't have a post for people to react on our site. In that all it was bitching and complaining and accusing the show of being bad and actively trying to harm them and their viewing experience. And look, I understand that's the appointment. Like, my initial reaction when John shared it with us is like, that is unfortunate. Like, that is a major change. I wonder what that would be. But instantly in that, it's like, well, clearly this is an accommodation to the fact that they're trying to film during COVID. And what was interesting is, like, until I tweeted about it, and I'm just talking about my own timeline, and I'm not saying that I was influencing anybody else's tweet, but like, I did not see a single person in the replies, any other tweets be like, oh, that's too bad, but I get it. It was all just recrimination and hatred, and it was just like a perfect, like, just, this is why I complain about you guys, because you can't even give the show this, that is like, oh yeah, this is probably because, you know, they have this situation. So my take is that, yeah, I do think it could be unfortunate for the show. It could have effects. By its very nature, there's no denying it will be easier. It will be 10 days easier. That we can, you know, and that thus will be.
Well, are we confirmed that it's 10 days shorter, or is that
that's true? Yeah, it will be shorter. The rumor is 29 days versus 39 days.
Well, I think it said it could be as many as 10 days shorter. I don't think they even know yet, honestly.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if we know how many people are in the cast.
Again, the rumor suggests that it is a normal sized cast, and obviously
Sure.
that number does fluctuate between seasons anyway. I have no reason to believe that the show has any intention of providing advertisers fewer episodes, because that's the thing, like episodes, we don't know what day it is when we're watching, right? So like for our viewing experience, it might actually make no difference. They don't tell us this is day 1, day 2, day 3 of the cycle, and in fact they will pull stuff from things that were in opposite cycles if it helps them piece together narrative.
Yeah, and ever since they started doing 20 people, which is regularly, which has been quite some time, the like classic every 3 days cycle has not been the case. You get to the end game and it's like every day all of a sudden, your ninth place person makes it to day 30.
Yeah. So
but and it's just like I just blew my, well, it didn't blow my mind because when John was sharing with us, it was appended with I'm sure you'll know exactly what to expect in the comments. But I did expect at some point for somebody to even just raise the question, even though it was in the article, is this COVID related? But nobody, not again. I was the first person I saw tweet about it. I don't follow everybody, and in fact, I try not to follow a lot of the serial complainers of Survivor. And then eventually, like I saw cast members, and again, I'm not saying none of them read my tweet. They were coming up with this independently, but it's just like, this is what I'm talking about. And maybe some people could use it, and maybe none of them listen to the show, as like this moment where it's like, even this, you couldn't even for a second think about why the show would do this other than they're out to get you. The dumbest take I saw was, this is Probe's way of helping men win. And I'm like, that's a solved issue. There is not, like, if you think that everything that the show and Probes does is motivating to help men win, then that's the last thing he'd want to do is change the current structure.
Yeah, because
that is there. 29 days couldn't help men win more. It could only hurt it because they can't win more than they currently are already. But yeah, it's just the constant complaining was just like, why do you guys still watch the show? It's clear that you hate it. Anyway, sorry.
When did we become the optimists of the Survivor community?
But and one thought I had is maybe a lot of these nerds don't watch sports. So they just aren't fucking used to the fact that over a year now, we've all used to like shorter and compressed seasons. Or, maybe even stupid rules of like fewer innings or runners in certain positions. But maybe you guys
Nick Majorano actually had a good tweet about it, comparing to sports and like, oh, we'll have our own asterisk winner. And I'm like, that's right. The World Series champion is fake.
But it's like people
now
who
that's
have been
real
like
inside
complaining that there has been no Survivor. It's like, this is it, because like the people will be quarantined for 14 days before they play, probably before they even intermingle. We don't know for sure, but a quarantine in which they're all hanging out with each other is not a quarantine. That is a way of spreading potential disease amongst your cats. So I assume that they will be stuck in a room somewhere, probably maybe on a
individually
hotel in PG as opposed to location. And then, they might have to self-quarantine at home, maybe not like in Fiji. So like they have lives to get back to eventually. And for your sake, you want them to be away for like 2 months because the 39 days is so sacred to you, except in all the international versions of Survivor you claim are superior. Which case at that point, 39 days doesn't matter. It could be 10 years, however long. I don't know how long those seasons go. It's just
10 years, that's right.
Yeah.
This is one big season.
So I'm not denying it could have a negative impact on the show. I actually think that as viewers, we'll probably notice it very little.
I mean, there'll probably be more combined, immunity rewards early on. Maybe
could there be more? Like that seems to be kind of the common.
I mean, it seems. It seems to be the norm anyway. It just maybe combine more. Maybe there'll be a double boot, but frankly, there are those anyway.
We just watched a season from like 13 years ago where we got that.
Yeah, so I think you're right that there won't be a lot of changes. What I think will happen is that any change someone doesn't like will be blamed on this. So
when the eventual winner is unsatisfying for most people, it will be because of this.
Right.
So. If anything, I think it's just going to change the cadence. Like there's going to be more double boots or more rush things. We might not get enough camp life if they have to compress whatever they had planned.
I mean,
I'm going to say
whatever scraps we do get are gone.
I don't think that's the case, but we'll see.
I think the when it's time for a segment, they'll found somewhere within those days. I do think like challenge days probably do take up a lot of the day because it's not just the challenge itself. Maybe it'll result in like less long challenges. Like let's not do a 10-hour challenge because then we have less time to fill. One thing actually I could see as a negative is if you're somebody who's trying to survive based on your providing ability,
that doesn't matter so much.
No, it really like they're already like now. I don't know how much it matters in the modern game at all, anyway. But maybe there's sometimes somebody's like, oh, I'd like to keep them around versus this other person when it's like a coin toss, the person who could feed me. But it's like we're all out of here in a week anyway. What does it matter?
I mean, yeah, presumably they'll know that it's fewer days.
Without a doubt, though. Well, actually, we shouldn't say that. Survivor throws shit at them all the time, but I assume that like they were probably told before they were out there how long they would be gone. You know who's this is gonna suck for? The early boots. Because
I feel bad for the pre-jurors.
Yeah, Mark, you mentioned this, right? There's not gonna be a trip.
I was gonna say I highly doubt that they're gonna go on a trip to some other country while the jury's going on because you can't. That's just gonna be another quarantine. At that point, you've blown your 14 days.
Yeah, and then so think of it also about again why they're probably making it short. Like it's it sucks anyway, but like like how much it already sucks to go out, play for like a day or two, and then have to quarantine again. For 14 days, So if they can at least kind of shorten that for everyone.
Yeah, that'd be great. So,
maybe so we've people into like really getting like their dad.
Andy, we've been going for 2 hours.
I just want a quick thought. Is that they're like, we don't know how, like, if this will just be those 2 seasons. For one, we don't know anything in the future anymore. Future plans are something we abandoned a year ago. But also, if there's no noticeable difference and the show is fine for it, then why wouldn't they continue on with it? I'm done.
That's the word. Okay, now let's end it because I want to keep
the
this under 2
website at
hours.
www.purplerockpodcast. You can find the podcast wherever you find podcasts. Look it up. You can follow the Twitter at Purple Rock Pod. You can follow me at Purple Rock Emma. You can follow Andy for more rants at Purple Rock Andy. You can follow Mark, but why he doesn't tweet at Purple Rock Mark. You can follow Matt, who tweets slightly more than that at Purple Rock Matt. Theme music